Okay, I'm Sister Pam Hickey, and I'm here at Oakwood, and I love it. And I would like to talk about when the church seemed to make a turn for the better, and the society began to talk about it, and some people were already doing it. I decided I no longer was going to teach at a Sacred Heart school, and it was like Alice in Wonderland, really. I came out of my safety, and I was a product of Sacred Heart education, and I had something to share besides education. I went job hunting and Providence St. Mel, which is a high school in Chicago, and it's an area that you don't usually participate in. It's an area you drive by. The headmaster made up his mind that in order to get funds for the school, he would say, we graduate 100% of the senior class, because at Christmas time, he would tell kids who weren't going to make it, bye-bye. That was a shame, because no one's going to take them in their second half of their senior year. I was at Providence St. Mel for a while, and I can't tell you how long, but anyway, for a long while. And then I disagreed with the philosophy of the headmaster, or the whatever you call a person. And when I found out that he had dismissed some of the kids who were going to have to take an extra semester, just so he could get the funding. And that's not a bad idea in itself, except that what happens to those kids is gangs. And that's the end of their education, really. So I left Providence St. Mel after several years, and went job hunting again. And I began to feel like what it felt like to go look for a job, not to be assigned a job. And that was a real different feeling. And I thought, well, isn't that what the church is asking for? Isn't, that you lose your own security in order to help others move around, move ahead. So there were several different places that I found ads in the paper, etc., etc. And one place was an alternative high school in the south side of Chicago. You couldn't imagine anything worse. It was hard because Chicago had made a decision of splitting south side and north side. The southwest side became very, very racist. So worked there for a while, and the kids were responsive. I mean, they weren't workers, because they kind of have lost the hopes of a person who is going on to make the world a better place. There was a lady in charge, I guess you would call it principal, and she kept making rules and breaking them. And I said, well, why do you do that? Because You make a rule and break it, your rules don't mean anything. And no one respects that. If you make a rule, then follow the rule yourself. And anyway, I think I was most touched when one kid came to school. He was bloody, he had no shoes, and I thought, oh my God. I said, what happened to you? He said, oh, I had a new pair of shoes, and the gang saw my shoes, so they got me. He said, I tried to run, but it's hard to run in snow. He was really beaten up, and I thought, and there's really no easy protection. And they really don't have too many places that'll accept them either. I began to realize that this decision of the church to pay more attention and do more for the poor. I think kids are more poor than adults. I also think they're more vulnerable. His story, he had no family that was at home. I mean, nobody at home. Never saw people at home. Nobody cared. So I thought, you know, this is not the way it's supposed to be. I couldn't do anything about it, really. But it changed my way of seeing things. It's the powerless that suffer. And the kids that join gangs, most of them are in a gang, are really, really vulnerable. And if something happens, gang thing turns, and the gang will only protect its members as long as it is not threatened itself. In some sense, it has a lot to do with our education, that we have been given so much that we have to turn around and say to the guy behind us, or the girl, or the bunch of them, you know, come on, share what I've got. I don't even remember the names of kids that I've taught because my memory's going, but I love them and I want them to succeed. I think that's something we have that maybe we forget, and cater to those who have something to give. And the kids who have nothing to give except failure are left over here on the side. Not that I did anything great in trying to pay attention to that call of the church, the society, saying a priority for the poor. It's a real gift to us, and it changes people who pay attention to the call. I think it's changed me. I'm not a great teacher, I'm not a great administrator, I'm not a great whatever, but I have a big heart right now. I think we really need to step into the shoes of those who don't have it. That doesn't mean we need to become the other, but it means we have to experience what it means when people give up on you. That's the part of the society mission that changed the way I look at people here. And I think we all have our shortcomings and we all have our longcomings. What happens here is you begin to see a different side of everybody who comes in that door. It makes you realize you have so much. Sometimes we really limit that and act like we don't have anything. It's not your yearly budget that counts. It's your life and the way you deal with other people.